Hey, it's Saturday. That means we're going to spend some time with God. Welcome to Saturdays with God with your girl, Ashley Renee. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome. It's Saturdays with God. Let's get started. Today, we're talking about the end of slavery. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ashley, what are you talking about? Slavery ended years ago, or slavery ended years ago. I am more so talking about today the slavery of the things that we tend to obey, or the things that we feed into, that we allow to drive our lives. Okay? Specifically, for me, today is the end of slavery to fear. I have been a slave to fear my entire life. And I need you to understand, we're not talking about, like I said, we're not talking about being in shackles, physical shackles. We're not talking about being in physical confinement. We're talking about mental confinement, emotional confinement. That's what I'm talking about today. That's where I have been, or that's what's been holding me from living the full life. Now, if you know me, you know I travel all over the world. I sing, I act, I'm a trainer at work. I'm also one of the leads at my job. But all of that required me to overcome a certain level of fear. So it's almost like fear, being my master, allowed me in those moments to simply say, okay, we'll let you go a little further, a little ways. Well, you can do a little bit, okay? But fear still gripped me, fear still held on to me. It was still there. It has been there my entire life. When I'm talking about fear, I'm literally speaking of those moments, not just when you're like, oh, I'm getting ready to get on a roller coaster and I'm really scared to do it. We're talking about those moments where you have a significant choice to make. And instead of you making the choice that you really want to, fear dictates how you see the situation. It dictates how you understand the situation. It dictates how you believe, and it dictated my actions. Okay, so that's my perception, my understanding, my belief, and my actions. So anytime a major choice or decision came up in my life, those were the things that were skewed or wrong, or simply I just did not see it for how it really truly was. And that's what we're talking about today. Those days, over. I can't do it anymore. I will not do it anymore, because it has hindered my life, hindered my growth. And I will be honest, it's not that I came to this conclusion by myself. I really honestly believe God has finally said, look, enough. Okay? We got work to do. And in order for you to do it, I need you to believe. I need you to see things clearly. I need you to hear things clearly. And I need you to move in the right direction. And fear will prevent you from doing that. That's just the truth. We hear in the Bible all the time, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. That is Romans 6. It's the very last line in that chapter. However, we don't read the stuff above it, and especially as African Americans, because it talks about slaves with their masters, and we don't like to hear about that. We just don't. We don't. But it's not talking about slaves of how we were treated in America, how we were brought over in America. I believe that it's talking about, indentured servants and slaves back then, which you could be You could indenture yourself into slavery. You could barter into slavery back then. And then sometimes you were sold into slavery, which is legit. That's pretty much the same thing. But the spiritual aspect of where it talks about slavery, and the piece that I want to really focus in on, and someone said this last night on a YouTube I was watching. We are slaves to something. We're all slaves to something. It's about what you worship. It's about what you focus in on. It's about what your intentions and what you choose to look into or feed into. So I've been feeding into my fear. That means I've been a slave to my fear. And as I said it before, it dictated everything that I did or didn't do. Outside of that, or spiritually speaking, when we talk about slavery to things, I'm happy to be a slave to God, to feed into that situation, that relationship, to give over myself to Him, to humble myself to Him, to be the person that says, you know what, I bow down to you, God. I bow down to you. I give myself to you. I give my will to you. You have complete and utter control of my life. So let's just take those same words, the same phrases, the same thoughts. I have been bowing down to fear. I have been bowing down and giving my life over to fear and telling fear, you have control. I dare not think about how much more I would have accomplished by now if I had come to this conclusion sooner. I dare not think about it because it would break my heart. But the past is the past, and I'm still living. And as long as I am in the land of the living, I now have the time and the opportunity to submit to the will of God and not to the will of my fear. It's just that simple. I have made a decision that I will no longer be a slave to fear. I will no longer be your slave.
I will no longer be your slave.
Period. I also cannot be a slave because I now have a daughter. And not that I wasn't an example to other people before, but I have so much more of an opportunity to be an example of what it means to truly live free, to truly have a life of abundancy. You can't live an abundant life and be afraid to live, be afraid to do the things that God asks you to do, or to be afraid to do anything for that matter. It just doesn't work. Fear and God don't go together. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. A sound mind does not go with fear, which also makes sense. So my mind is not sound when my perspective is skewed. What I think or how I see things is skewed because I'm looking through, I talked about it last week, those rose-colored glasses, which means I see things totally different than what they truly are. It's the same thing when you're running scared. When you're running scared, you see something or you look at something in the dark. And when you see it, what you think you saw and what is really there, fear will tell you what's there. Fear will add to the picture. You turn the light on, it's a hanger and, a jacket. You thought it was somebody standing there in the dark. Don't get me wrong, I know that does really happen, but my point being is your fear will cause you to see things wrong, to see things from a totally different perspective, to see things just not in what they really are. It prevents you from seeing the truth. And the truth is what truly sets us free. That being said, I intend to live a fearless life. From this point forward, I am no longer a slave to fear. I will happily be a slave to the Lord because He is the best master. Okay? He is the best master you could ever want. He is kind, He is gentle, He is patient, and He supplies every need that you have if you believe. So, this is what I learned in my time with God today on Saturday. I hope that you get something out of this. And I pray that you will live a fearless life. That whatever else you may be a slave to, today you would declare, I am no longer your slave. I happily go into the servitude of the Lord. Be blessed today. Have a wonderful Saturday. It's only the second Saturday of the year. And I know the world caught on fire this week, but it's going to be okay. Don't be afraid. You have love, you have power, and you have a sound mind. Have a great Saturday.